just how good really is the former middleweight champion Sean Strickland. So you've got a guy in Sean Strickland who's looking to reclaim his title, the middleweight championship, rematching Dricus Du Plessis at UFC 312. He's just coming off of a win against Paulo Costa in which he definitively won. People weren't too happy about the excitement of that fight, but regardless about that, he was able to cleanly beat Paulo Costa and is now looking to reclaim gold and get revenge against Dricus.
Yeah, definitely not the most exciting performances of all time, but regardless, Strickland always does what he needs to do to get the win, and he's effective with his style. Very technical, very fundamentally sound. It's not like he does anything crazy. He doesn't do anything extra. I mean, sometimes he does get wild, especially towards the end of the fights. He just lets it all go a little bit more, but he has a lot of good tools that he uses to break down his opponents. Guys like former middleweight champion Israel Adesanya, one of the greatest middleweights of all time. He schooled him when Izzy was on a high. Izzy just came off one of the best performances of his career, beating Alex Pereira in their rematch, knocking him out cold in 2 rounds. Then Sean Strickland comes in like 6 months later on short notice and beats Izzy, dropping him in the first round, pouring it on him, and kind of putting on a masterclass. It's not like it was just a fluke, one punch, one hitter, quitter win. He kind of schooled Izzy for that fight. And while his reign didn't last too long, as he fought DDP a couple months after that fight and ended up losing his belt via controversial decision, he is still the real deal and undoubtedly one of the best middleweights in the world.
Yeah, people like to clown him for his very short middleweight title reign, also due to his personality out of the octagon and some of the things he say. But regardless of that, this guy is undoubtedly quite high level, especially in that middleweight division. You've got a guy who has beat some of the top that the middleweight has to offer and has only really lost to very high level guys. And as well, one of the things that make him so good is just that style. He's just a master of his sort of Philly shell in the MMA, using primarily boxing while also incorporating teeps to the body. And we know how much this guy is sparring, and that's one of the reasons he's mastered that style. He's always just sparring. He's mastered that iCarly stance. That kind of makes him predictable in a way. You know he's just going to stay to his strengths. He's not going to switch up. You're not going to see anything really unexpected from him. Maybe in the last 5 seconds where he decides to be brave. But other than that, you're not going to get anything different from the guy. But at the same time, that does make him effective because he's so locked in with that style. It's hard to break. You saw Israel Adesanya lost to it. And again, styles make fights, but in that preparation, you could see just how locked in Sean Strickland was. Wasn't getting caught, wasn't getting hurt, was just always on the pressure, always on the front foot. That's one of the things that are his primary strengths as well, is that he's just always on the front foot, pressuring too. It's hard to fight a guy like that too. You don't really see styles like that in MMA. He's a very unique fighter, so it's interesting to see how he's going to do in this rematch.
Yeah, his style does make for good longevity as well. He is 33 years old and has had about 35 fights in MMA, but it's not like he takes a lot of damage in his fights. He took a little bit when he fought Dricus Du Plessis, and that was kind of more of a war. Also, another fight that was a little bit more of a war was when he fought Nasruddin Imavov on short notice, who now just beat Israel Adesanya and is a top contender for that middleweight throne. Potentially could be one of the next in line to get a title shot, maybe after Hamza Chimaev, but Strickland was a little bit bigger than Imavov, coming in at 205 pounds, and Nasruddin Imavov was like, 195-ish pounds, so he had a size advantage, but I feel like that really shows his level. He beat a lot of these upcoming guys. Another one like Abus Magomedov, who had a bit of hype. People thought he could be the next big thing, and then Sean Strickland shuts him down and stops him within 2 rounds. The one thing about Sean Strickland is if there's a weakness in your game, he could definitely exploit that. He's done a couple fraud checks in his career, and we're going to see if he is at that gatekeeper level and he's not really going to be able to push through to get a title once again, or if he is the real deal and if he is champion material going into this fight against Dricus.
Yeah, and I'd say one of the biggest stories for maybe Sean Strickland's career is you look at this guy and maybe you don't really expect him to be on the top of the level. People throughout his whole career have kind of clowned him for that style too, and when you look at him, you don't really see a champion, and regardless of that, he was able to persevere, get a lot of good ranked wins, get some win streaks, and become champion in the end, which is a big part of his career and what he's been able to do.
Yeah, also like when he lost to Alex Pereira, a lot of people counted him out there and said he's never going to get to that top level. That's why a lot of people counted him out against Izzy. Since then, we know how good Pereira is, so that loss has kind of aged a little bit better than it seemed at the time.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, he really primarily, most of his losses are only to top guys, champions of the sport, high level fighters. You don't really see him to lose to anyone that low of level, except for Jared Cannonier, which is questionable one. People thought maybe he won that fight and Loki got robbed, but we won't talk about too much of that. Either way, though, this guy is definitely a very skilled fighter in his stance, in his style. Maybe some questions about his grappling. It's not like he's the greatest grappler in the world, and it could pose some threats against guys such as like Hamza Chimaev, who is just a monster on the ground if that matchup ever happens. But in terms of pure striking and just on the feet, this guy has as good of a chance as anyone, especially in that middleweight division. And it's really unique how he's able to bring that boxing heavy approach compared to a lot of the kickboxing heavy styles in the middleweight division. Like we saw against Izzy, he pretty much just nullified him. And then on the other hand, against Alex Pereira, where he just got nuked completely. So it's a very interesting difference there.
Yeah, and people also don't realize how good Sean Strickland is at nullifying people's games. Guys like Israel Adesanya, he really wasn't able to get started in that fight. He wasn't able to get any momentum, just the fundamentals from Sean Strickland, who just shut Izzy down early on into that fight. And also the way he's able to check leg kicks. His defense is some of the greatest in MMA. You can't deny. He definitely gets caught. We've seen that before, but overall the consistency in his defense, in his work, is definitely a very high level, but he doesn't take so many risks. So we don't really see those highlight reel knockouts from Sean Strickland. We usually see some pitter-patter decisions with him, especially against guys at the elite of the elite level. But it's not like he doesn't have some fair share of finishes himself. Like we said, the Abus Magomedov one, stopping him in 2 rounds, and he is fighting the elite of the elite. So it's going to be hard to put a lot of these guys away when they are this good, they are this talented, and he is always fighting the top of the division. So I don't know if Sean Strickland's ever going to get that title back. I feel like this is his best chance if he ever is going to. The time is now against Dricus Du Plessis in this rematch. If he doesn't win here, I don't see him ever getting that title, really, honestly. Does he get another opportunity to get that belt back? Will he be able to climb the ranks once again in the middleweight division with all these rising hungry contenders on the come up now? It's going to be tough, in my opinion.
I'd say definitely his window has maybe passed if he doesn't win against Dricus here. Potentially his last title shot, as he would definitely have to build up the ranks heavily if he loses this fight to come back. Especially because a lot of people think he got gifted this title fight, as he only beat Paulo Costa following his first loss against Dricus. So he definitely have to climb back heavily. 33, it's still possible, but like you were saying, there's so many good prospects coming up. So many guys who are fresh, hungry, got a lot of time left in the game. So I really think this is possibly his last opportunity here against Dricus, but we'll see if he's able to make the most out of it. So to answer the question, how good is Sean Strickland? Overall, Strickland is a former champ who won it against tough competition in Israel Adesanya, and he's proven to beat some of the top middleweights of this generation. But at the end of the day, it's just whether or not he can really prove to be the number one in that division and for a long amount of time. He has an effective style that he's very in tune with. However, he's susceptible to counters and has shown to have some deficiencies in his game at time, but is overall very disciplined. But at the end of the day, what makes him so good is he's just a master at what he does. And that's how he's able to stay at the very top of the middleweight division for so many years.
So let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Is Sean Strickland a fraud? Will he never get that title back? Was he a fluke champion? Or is he the real deal? Will he get that belt back? Let us know what you guys think. And thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and check the video out on screen for more punch talk.